My name is Kristen, and I'm a landscape designer in Colorado. Today, I'd like to take you through a slideshow that I put together a couple of years ago after reading Douglas Tallamy's book, Nature's Best Hope. In his book, Dr. Tallamy says that we've lost nearly half of the world's insects in the last 50 years. Not coincidentally, we've also lost a similar amount of our birds in North America. His belief is that the way we are landscaping in our yards is contributing to these declines, and in order to save our pollinators and our birds, we need to start planting for them. This slideshow goes over specific recommendations for Colorado landscapes, but no matter where you live in the country, I think you'll find value in what I say. As Dr. Tallamy said in his book, only a handful of the same plant genera support the majority of species in about 85% of the country. Let's dive in. So you don't have to have a big yard to make a difference. Even a single pot of native wildflowers can help our native pollinators. Start where you're at and do what you can. Traditional Western landscape design is very much in service of humans. We like our plants to shade and cool our home, to create privacy and enclosure, and we like our yards to be places where we can play, entertain, relax, or just enjoy looking at it. Awareness has grown, though, in recent years over some environmental concerns. Western design now often includes xeric or drought-tolerant plants, rock ground cover and boulder accents, reduced lawn areas, and of course using less water is especially important here because the Colorado River is actually being used up by humans. The Colorado River used to reach the Gulf, and now it just dies out to a small trickle as it crosses the border into Mexico. So we have to be really careful about conserving water for our neighbors downstream. People have also started thinking a lot more about pollinator gardens. So on this next slide, while areas of rock conserve water, they do not provide cover or food for native insects and wildlife. Rock areas also add to the urban heat sink. Many plants used in xeric design are from Asia, the Mediterranean, and even Africa, while plants like Russian sage, in the photo on the left, and blue mist spirea are popular with honeybees, they don't support the full life cycle of native insects. Pollinator gardens are often focused on the end product, like butterflies. A lot of people like to plant butterfly bush, but butterfly bush is the host plant for only one native butterfly. We also need to think about where the caterpillars will grow to make the butterflies and to feed the birds. Berries from non-native plants lack nutrients that birds need, especially around times when they're migrating. Imported plants can also be invasive and choke out the plants that native insects and birds need. Now, because of books like Nature's Best Hope, there's been further progress in landscape design thinking, and people are really considering ecosystem services in their yards now. Your yard can sequester carbon, can clean the air and replenish oxygen, can clean water and capture runoff to reduce flooding, and can moderate temperatures. Trees especially create their own microclimates. It's 20 degrees cooler in the shade, and also trees transpire, creating moisture in the atmosphere. I should also add that in grasslands, taller prairie plants shade the soil to keep soil life alive during the dry season. Our native landscapes were performing all of these ecosystem services before we arrived, and we can help them to do it again. A quick note on lawns. If you need to keep lawns for play areas or for entertainment, lawns lose carbon under almost any circumstance. But if you're keeping some, apply compost to it. So I took this screenshot of a research study done in Boulder, and they tried all sorts of treatments on lawn. Biochar, fungal mycorrhizae, foliar sprays, And the only treatment that worked to help lawns sequester carbon was compost applications. And other research elsewhere supports this, that applying compost helps the soil to accumulate carbon. Also, from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, for every 1% increase in organic matter in the soil, an acre of land can hold an additional 10,000 gallons of water. So that's really important in our area because it reduces our watering needs. Now I'd like to go more into the specifics of converting your yard from a bluegrass monoculture into a diverse native planting. So Dr. Ptolemy says to think of lawn as an area rug rather than wall-to-wall carpeting, so limit the area where you have sod. Consider where and how much you want to convert, measure your yard, and draw up a plan. I'll tell you more about that as we go. Remove the grass. I'll give you options for what you can do. Amend soils if needed, plant, and irrigate for the first season. Consult an irrigation specialist about differences in water pressure if you are creating new drip zones for perennial shrubs and trees where it used to be spray zones. And then finally, be vigilant for weeds. You can clip the weeds repeatedly to knock them down. If they're easy to pull, you can pull them, though this does create some soil disturbance that might allow more weed seeds to germinate. If you're doing a large area, you can also mow and just keep setting the mower higher than the plants that you want and mow down the more aggressive weeds. Here is an example of a drawing that I did while measuring someone's yard. I try to measure very carefully and draw everything to scale so that I have accurate measurements for how much I will need in terms of materials, and I know how many plants I'll be able to fit in. I measure everything that the homeowner wants to keep, and then I also measure the house and where access is as well as views. My next step is to come up with a plan, so I think carefully about sun and shade exposure and what plants will do well in an area. I think about variety of form, color, and size to make it visually interesting. And I think about what goals the homeowner might want to accomplish, like attracting birds or pollinators. Remember that greater variety leads to greater ecosystem stability. If you can, try to include keystone plants, and I will say more about this later. Okay, so a little discussion about ways to remove grass. I do have Roundup listed on here. You should know, though, that if you're using Roundup, it's deadly to aquatic life, it kills frogs, and there are concerns about it being carcinogenic. So if you need to kill everything really fast and get it planted, you can do Roundup. It's not my favorite. The next option is to solarize, so mow the grass short, remove clippings, water, cover in clear plastic, and leave 4 to 6 weeks in the hottest part of the summer. That works really well in Colorado where we get really bright, hot sun. This will kill everything though, even things you don't want to kill like the soil life, and then you have a lot of plastic to get rid of. Another option is to sheet mulch, so cover the area with sheets of cardboard or 10 to 12 layers of newspaper, overlap it well, wet to hold the paper in place, and then add 1-inch compost and 6 inches or more of mulch like grass clippings, straw, or leaves. Allow probably actually a few months for it to break down. That can really take a lot of time though. Another option, and this one is kind of my preferred option, is to get a sod cutter and lift the sod off the surface, flip it, and allow it to dry. If you do this though, you need to make sure it's really dry, and then you can reuse it to build berms or plant your native plants directly in it. And I've heard that native plants actually grow really well in dead bluegrass, but you have to make sure it's really dead because bluegrass is very persistent if there's any water at all available. Let's talk a little bit about soil amendments. Native plants actually do really well in crummy native soil. If you amend your soil a lot, you're more likely to promote the growth of non-native invasive species. Native plants can also become floppy and die out sooner in heavily amended soil. That said, some native plants may need better drained soils, so to amend clay soil, add 15% pea gravel and 10% compost by volume. To amend sandy or rocky soils that drain too quickly, add 3% compost. And planting on berms can also improve drainage for those native plants that need drier conditions. If you're seeding in a meadow or prairie type planting, the best time to sow the seed is in early spring. Even seed distribution and good seed to soil contact are important. The seed can be broadcast by hand by mixing it with a damp sawdust as a carrier, and then use 1 bushel of carrier per 1,000 square feet of area to be covered. Distribute the seed in a broad arc to spread evenly. A spreader may also be used, so in that case mix your seeds with clean sand or vermiculite, and then make passes in 2 different directions. After sowing, roll seed to improve seed to soil contact, and be sure to roll when the soil is dry. Water and monitor closely for weeds. Now I'll get into talking some about choosing plants for your landscape. And these plants I chose for Colorado, but as I said earlier, if you live in another part of the country, there may be another similar species that you can plant. A great place to look for information about this is on the National Wildlife Federation's online native plant finder, and you just type in your zip code and it'll give you specific plant recommendations. They also will tell you which plants are best for hosting moths and butterflies and supporting our pollinators. In the top row, I have grama grass, which supports skipper butterflies and bumblebees, milkweed, which of course supports monarch butterflies, penstemon, which is the host plant for checker spot butterflies, and the last one is sulfur flower, which has substantial wildlife value. It hosts many butterflies and is a seed source for birds and a nectar source for native bees. In the bottom row, I have some keystone plants: stiff goldenrod, gamble oak, and western sand cherry. So this is where I said if you live in a different part of the country, there may be another species of goldenrod or oak or cherry that are appropriate to grow in your area. So what are keystone plants? These plants, according to Dr. Ptolemy, are the ones that are like the keystone in a stone arch. If you remove the keystone, the arch, or in this case, the entire ecosystem will collapse. These plants are the ones that support the greatest number of insects that form the base of the food web for everything else in the ecosystem. And again, to learn more about which plants are best for your area, you can check out that native plant finder on the National Wildlife Federation's website. This slide shows some regionally native trees. There aren't a whole lot of trees that grow really well in Colorado, but I'll go through some options because sometimes we have microclimates in our yards where it's appropriate to plant them. So starting on the left, we have peach leaf willow, which grows well in moist areas, so along creek beds or near ponds. Douglas hawthorn, western hackberry, which actually provides berries that robins really love. And then we have cottonwood, and in the bottom row we have gamble oak, native chokecherry, and American plum. So a couple of things about the last 3 on the bottom, those are all suckering trees. If you want a non-suckering gamble oak, there is a new cultivar available called Gila Monster. If you want a non-suckering chokecherry, you can get Sucker Punch. The American plum, I don't think that anybody has bred a non-suckering version of that, and it does have thorns, but it's a great place for birds to hide out safely and to find things to eat. Next up, we have some evergreens. So again, you have to look for the appropriate place to plant these in your yard. We've got Rocky Mountain juniper, pinyon pine, bristlecone pine, Colorado spruce, and white fir, which actually does better kind of in more moist environments or in the mountains. The Rocky Mountain juniper and the pinyon pine, you should be aware that they are so good at extracting moisture from the soil that it may be hard to grow other plants near them. Evergreens are also not advisable near homes due to fire hazard in Colorado. And one more note about the blue spruce. I've actually found that they come through severe droughts in our area pretty well as long as they are well established. Now I'd like to go through some plants that are commonly used in the Colorado landscape that are non-native and give you some native alternatives. So on the left we have Russian sage, which is a good plant for supporting honeybees. Honeybees are generalists. They will pollinate anything, even imported plants. But if you want to support our native bees and our native butterflies, try planting lead plant instead. It has these pretty purple flowers in summer, and it is the host plant for the dog-faced sulfur butterfly and the gray hairstreak butterfly. It is also a nitrogen-fixing plant. On the next slide, on the left, we have Van Hout spirea. That's an imported plant, and honestly, I can't think I've ever seen any kind of pollinators on our spireas. But on the right, there are some other plants that have white flowers. So Boulder raspberry, which I should say the berries are not palatable to humans, but the wildlife really like them. Apache plume, which all summer long has a mix of these fluffy seed heads and white flowers, and fern bush. And all of these plants are very supportive to our native pollinators. Next we have Forsythia, which a lot of people like because of its early spring yellow flowers. On the right we have the native option, which is yellow flowering currant, and this plant hosts the tailed copper butterfly and the gray kama butterfly. It also provides berries for the birds and early spring nectar for the bees. People love to plant bunch grasses in Colorado. On the left we have some non-native grasses. On the right we have native bunch grasses like little bluestem and switchgrass that host skipper butterflies and provide nesting places for native bumblebees. At this point, I'd like to say something about the color of the switchgrass, and this is actually heavy metal, which has a bluish color to it. Dr. Chalamy researched whether cultivars were as good as the original species, and he said that yes, they are just as good for pollinators as long as the leaf color and the flower aren't so changed that our native insects can't recognize them. On this slide, we have an aster that is not native to Colorado, but on the right, we have a couple of really similar looking alternatives that are native, showy fleabane and Bigelow's tansy aster, and these both provide late season forage like the non-native aster does for bees, and they are also great host plants for butterflies. Next we have speedwell on the left, which is a non-native plant. On the right we have native alternatives for Colorado, which are penstemons. Penstemons are a real favorite of hummingbirds, and as previously mentioned, they host a couple of different checker spot butterflies. You might also notice during this presentation that some of my slides have a Plant Select mark on them. I did get them from the Plant Select website, and they are a great organization to look at for plants that they've tested and found work really well in Colorado. Now I'd like to just go through some groups of plants just for inspiration for you. So on this slide we have a group of plants that prefer more shady conditions and a little bit more moisture. So waxflower on the left, Saskatoon serviceberry flowers at the top, those white flowers, Rocky Mountain columbine, then on the bottom we have a Colorado dogwood, sticky geranium, and common juniper. If you're buying a juniper at the nursery, check the plant tag before bringing it home because some prefer more sun and some can take a little bit more shade. On this slide, top left, we have chocolate flower, which has a lovely chocolate scent. It's really interesting. Then we have lead plant, desert zinnia, desert 4 o'clock, rabbit brush, and soapweed yucca. Now, if you're thinking of putting the desert 4 o'clock in your landscape, do be a little mindful of working around it and of where you put it, because it can be a skin irritant. But it does attract hawk moths and other caterpillars that the birds really like to eat. And I'll say something here at this point about moths. A lot of people worry about them eating their clothes, but there are only 2 species of moth that will eat your clothes. The rest are valuable pollinators and an important food source for baby birds especially. On the next slide, we have lanceleaf coreopsis, grama grass, lavender bee balm, which is a favorite of hummingbirds, blue flax, which is an early spring bloomer, creeping western sand cherry, which is a keystone plant, and white evening primrose, which attracts the white-lined sphinx moth, which some people say looks a bit like a small hummingbird. On this slide, we have pearly everlasting, which is the host plant for the American lady and the painted lady butterfly, blue mat penstemon, shell leaf penstemon, native gay feather, showy fleabane, and Sonoran sunset hyssop. And I am sort of pushing the boundaries a little with the hyssop. That's native kind of farther south of here, but with climate change, we're finding it does really well in our area. On this page, we have native coneflower, which comes either in a golden yellow color or this kind of rusty red color. In the center, Shenandoah red switchgrass, and on the right, a sunflower. Sunflowers are a keystone species, so they attract a lot of different pollinators and are a host plant for butterflies. On the bottom, we have stiff goldenrod. If you're planting goldenrod, make sure that it's one that's native to your area and not an invasive one. And then on the right, there is native blanket flower. Now we'll go over some further recommendations for wildscaping in your yard. Look for neonicotinoid-free plants. You don't want to buy special native plants for pollinators and then lure them to their doom on treated plants. So ask at your nursery if they treat their plants. Plant keystone genera, and I realize that there may be space constraints for trees, but if you have the space, plant oak, cottonwood, willow, native cherry, native plum, goldenrod, and sunflowers. Again, see the National Wildlife Federation's Plant Finder for more information. Plant trees in ground cover areas rather than in lawns. Caterpillars need safe places to drop to and mature. This is another case of luring pollinators to their doom if you plant a host plant and then mow under it, chopping up the caterpillars. Plant for specialist insects, and the generalists will be happy too. Again, honeybees are generalists. They will pollinate anything, and they can outcompete our native pollinators on imported plants. So if you want to support our native pollinators, you've got to plant native plants for them. The globe mallow bee needs scarlet globe mallow, the yucca moth needs yucca, and so on. Consider incorporating tree stumps or some downed branches as yard art and for perches and insect hiding places. Ground nesting birds need bunch grasses, not running grasses. Ground nesting birds run along the ground before taking off to hide the location of their nests. They can't do that if you plant running grasses. Consider providing water for birds, especially in droughts and during migration. Don't be afraid of the so-called weedy plants. Those are the ones that support much of our animal diversity in North America. Goldenrod, milkweed, coreopsis, sunflowers, and so on. So now I'll give you my pep talk. Never doubt your own power. Don't believe that you are helpless about environmental concerns or that the situation is hopeless. And I loved this quote from the pastor at my church. Hopelessness is a tool. It's a tool of people who want to keep things the way they are. You don't need to be special to make an impact on environmental challenges. We are all heroes, and we can all be the ones who care for nature. Thanks for watching.